Yep. You know anything about this, Cody? For Abby? I think I've got it correct.
Yeah, I think we're, right.
That light wasn't working,
No.
so. Here.
Yeah, usually the light is on, but you're doing it right. Let me grab Brian. Did we just go this way?
Fine, for just a minute.
Our computers were acting up tonight too.
Looks like it might be one of these of the servers, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, never, yeah, we can.
We're good.
Oh, all right, just a light that's up. Everything is working.
Welcome, everyone. This is pre-meeting for August 22nd. Are there any questions for the actual agenda?
I should have one.
Okay.
So on graffiti, defined as a message, symbol, inscription, drawing, painted, blah, 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 blah. Just wondering how that works with approved artwork. Sorry, I didn't get that question in earlier, but some locations we have what looks to be graffitiing, but it's actually approved artwork for that location. So how does that work when, because I've been in situations where it wasn't communicated and it went, the artist had to redo their work because they thought it was graffiti instead of an actually approved work. So just wanted to get clarity around that.
And let me check. So I think between Mr. Otzelberg and Mr. Fuselier, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the definition of graffiti includes unauthorized, which would distinguish it from an authorized work of art.
As long as there's distinction. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We had, first of all, I need to know, did we have 4 people that thought we should join the Rocky Mountain Roundtable? OB, 1, yes. 2?
I'm a yes with conditions because I think that we need to, 1, we'll need to have an elected representative, and 2, it needs to make sense on why we're rejoining and make sure that we're actually setting expectations that we can meet. So if we're saying that we're going to address, or that the group is going to address lead or address noise, that those 2 items are being addressed and not stagnant, continuing to have a conversation 2 years down the road. So
I'm a similar yes. I think that on the lead, I don't think that the roundtable sounds like they're going to specifically bring it up, but I'd like to make sure that we're going to have cooperation of the airport, because they did say that they would come back and tell us whether or not that would be something that they would be able to legally authorize if we were to help pay for that. So I don't necessarily think that has to be part of the roundtable, but I want that to be something that we do chase down and don't drop. But similar, I want to make sure that we actually have representatives if we're going to rejoin, and that there's some clear definition around what we're going to accomplish.
And in talking with Mr. Franco, probably CDPH is the one that needs to be concerned about the lead issues, and it's not necessarily the airport's purview. So we can talk more. Yes, Mr. Baker.
I'm a no, and the reason I'm a no is I think this puts unrealistic expectations in the mind of the public. I really don't think there's anything we can do except lobby our federal representatives, be they senators or representatives or anything like that, because the FHA has tilted the playing field that it'll be impossible to bring any kind of noise, even if they started landing jets, big jets all the time, because with their 24-hour time frame and the hours that it's vacant and quiet, there's no way that we'll meet. So with that insurmountable challenge, all we're doing is leading the public on that we might be able to change something that we have no hope of changing.
Counselor Namella?
I do also struggle with how much we can accomplish with respect to noise. Whether or not we end up on the roundtable, I think it would be, I would like to see us at least follow through with CDPHE and or whoever would be the right entity to understand what kind of environmental impact it's having on our residents. And if there's anything, whether it's as basic as notification when you purchase your home in a certain area to, I don't know, to some type of mitigation. I'd like to be able to address that for our community members.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So I just want to address what you said as far as why I still think that we should. They were very clear that the FAA and the federal government have it set up that this is our avenue to make change. Maybe it's not the amount of change that we would like to see, but they did say that there was the potential with the egress and degress would make some sort of impact, and this is the avenue. So like, that's what's kind of changed my mind about it, because if this is the avenue, we could go on our own and it doesn't matter. Just like we're kind of taking their ability away to the other municipalities in order to lobby, because if they go to the FAA, according to what they said and the rules that are laid out of the way that they want you to approach this through a roundtable, the FAA is going to say, nope, sorry, Westminster's not at the table. So it seems by nature of the rules of the FAA, this is the avenue that they want us to go after noise. So I don't see that we have another option for us to go after it. And they did say that there's potential that we could address egress degress, which would, even if it's 5-10%, it would make an impact.
I haven't heard from you.
I'm always one to be at the table, but I don't see where we're going to get much lift from that unless it's changed dramatically as far as and we're not going to get the lead. I mean, this is a noise roundtable, and I think it needs to stay at that. They mentioned that's, as Mayor Pro Tem said, that's the preferred way for FAA to do that. But and it also comes down to, do we have anyone who's available 9 to 11 on a Monday? And that's right now another issue too. So I, at this time, prefer not.
Yes.
Nothing else? I'm just waiting for you to say something. And so with you being a no, you don't want to be a rep to it.
I think it'd be a colossal waste of time. It's important, though, we do things as a group, and I would be willing to assist.
Here's what I came from in my sleepless nights. The presentation was very helpful, so I'm glad we did it. Because the presentation isn't, what they're doing at the roundtable isn't close enough to what they presented. So they do need to get on a track. They need to get goals that are measurable. It's a small window. It's this big of what the roundtable can do and what the FAA can do. So we need to know exactly what the FAA can do and change. How does that change? What's the process to make anything change? Everyone needs to know that. And what can the roundtable do? So I said to Jody in pre-meeting tonight, getting ready for this meeting, in my head, what I see is everybody that's at the roundtable being able to agree to what goes on everybody's home website. So Rocky Mountain Airport has a little heading, and here's the roundtable, here's its goals, its objectives, here's what the FAA is in charge of, because it is a narrow window. It isn't about everything everybody talks about at those meetings. And I just think we can help the community understand it's not this, it is this,
And the other things they're bringing into this have to be addressed in other arenas. But there's nothing anywhere that people can read that and understand it. So that's sort of what I took away from it. Bruce?
Really, how much do they want to charge us?
Well, this year it's just the, is it 3,600?
36, I think it goes to 12.
So we'd have a year to try to get them reined in before we have to decide on the big number.
Okay, and what does the 36 buy?
A seat at the round table.
No, what do they do with the money?
They were trying to get a facilitator, but they couldn't find it for that kind of money.
So,
They keep meeting, and I saw Commissioner Tharp at the cuisine for cops, and she sort of asked where we're at, and I said, you know, if you guys don't get narrowed down and get specific about what you can do, I said the reason I was so frustrated, I only attended one meeting, but because these two came back to us and gave such good presentations on what they were hearing at these meetings. It was the same meeting that he's attended, that she's had to sub for. It was as if I'd been to any one of their meetings that they had attended. And I told her that. And she said, I know, we've got to get better. So if you're willing to be a backup, I will put my neck out and undo my Mondays for that one time from 9 to 11, because my Mondays are sacred things to get ready for this meeting. But so that we could move forward and try to change things, because I told her, I said, I'll never get those 2 hours back from the last meeting.
do you want of me to be the rep then?
Either be the rep or you can be my backup.
I will be the rep.
Okay? And I'll be your
I'll
backup.
give your Mondays back.
Okay? Perfect. Then we're back in. We're back in. Okay, now protocols.
Real quick.
Oh.
To your point of the website, Mr. Andrews, could we work on something on our communication so that we have something to point people to that points out what we perceive the scope to be?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor and Councilor Baker. We'll follow up after tonight now that you've passed that direction, and we'll get something up on our website, and then we'll also coordinate to the best of our abilities with the other folks that are part of that roundtable, including the facilitator. Great, thank you.
May I ask that if we do that, and I'm sure that there's some kind of legal jargon that needs to come in. But if we do that, can we make it as easy to understand as possible?
Yes. Is everybody okay with
There's a
this
donut.
plan? Are we okay?
I'm good.
Well, everyone,
Thank
but you know, Mr. Henslow.
We'll coach you. You'll be good. Okay, council protocols.
Thank you, Mayor. And first to my colleagues, thank you for indulging me in this. I appreciate this. The biggest thing that I want to focus on right now, if I may, and we can go deeper if you wish, is that I was hoping to have an opportunity to streamline our meetings a little more, especially post meetings and study sessions. We've gotten, I think we've kind of gotten away a little bit. And so there's a few things that I would like to propose. One of them is a new proposal. And then some of them are protocols that we've had there in place. And if we could have a discussion about getting back to that or changing it. But we're all excited when we can get out of here by midnight. And so I think if we can work on this and still not restrain anyone's ability to chat at all, that's not my intention here. But I would like to have a consideration of when we're getting a staff presentation. Staff does a good job of building up the past into the current and where we want to go to the future with those iterations in there. And then we come to the questions part. I have known from the past that by the time I get to, my pad's full and I'm just asking questions on here, and then most of them are answered by the time I get there. I think it just helps with the flow. and we get to see the whole presentation. So that's an ask. It's not in our protocol, but it's something to talk about too. And then as far as, the questioning on there, and this is in part of our rules and regulations and in different parts in here. And it helps with the new configuration. It was tough when the mayor was tucked back down there is in all meetings, including council meetings and study session meetings, you need to be recognized by the chair. So I'm asking us to get back into that. I know sometimes we just want to get going on that part, but I think it makes the meeting flow better. And then another one of the protocols too is everybody gets a bite at the apple before we go back around again. That gives everyone that balance on that part. I think those things would help with our flow. I think it would help with that. It has been a tough 3-4 months. It's been tough since the election. And so I think that has worn on some people. So I ask everyone to give everyone grace. So we get a little heated in here sometimes, just remember everybody works very hard at this. And I think that will help our conversation. And, one of the things in our code is agree to disagree. That's what we're here for. And that actually makes better policy that way too. And then focusing on the issue. So it does get harder as the hour gets later. I understand that. But some of those things were the things that really popped in my mind as far as efficiency and effectiveness and keeping us moving forward that way too. And it honors everyone's time. And that's important to me right now too. So that's the biggest issue that I really want to check in on. And some of the other things are they were just reminders, and it was a Friday email. So my apologies for that too.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I think those are all good suggestions. The only ask that I would have as far as questions during presentation, I know in the past, we've given the flexibility to the presenter to say whether or not they want questions during, because sometimes they're long and sometimes it's nice to ask while they're there so that maybe if you feel like you want to get context while they're in the moment of explaining something, sometimes that's nice. But I certainly, if they, I know in the past too, sometimes they've asked, can you hold questions to the end? So I would ask that we make the caveat on the presenter, because some presenters like the flow to be where we're a little bit more free format. Otherwise, I think that they're great recommendations. I think it's a good reminder for us. Make sure that we're getting in the queue and not stepping on our colleagues and making sure everybody's voice is at the table.
No, and some of our presenters, they have built-in question breaks, and that's a great example of that too. So that's a better flow for them at that point, especially if it's a long presentation, to take that in bites. And so, absolutely. It's not set in stone. Nothing that we do is. So it's just the nature of personalities too, but I thought it was just a good time for a check-in. So.
A couple of other things on the list. We need to remember, address the topic and not the person. I know I've had some feedback from our last meeting. People felt like we were attacking the person, not the topic, and that can feel icky. So just a reminder. Also around media contacts, do we have any protocols with our communications when people reach out, especially news channels or whatever, just so we don't get ourselves into anything that we shouldn't be into?
I'd offer Protocol 9, which contemplates who speaks for the city. If that's needing an update, you can put me, yes, council's desired update.
Code of conduct.
Sorry.
So that's number 9 under Westminster City Council Code of Conduct. There's a series of protocols. Protocol 9, which is the last page in your handout.
It's on
It's on
the,
the back.
Oh, it's on the back. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So in the past, since I've been on, I mean, we've followed this to make sure that if there's somebody who needs to speak for the council, that obviously the mayor is the person and that it goes through this proper protocol. But I know also if members of council were contacted to speak on their own behalf, I think, and I don't know how you put this in here, a good rule of thumb that we've usually followed since I've been here is making sure we check in, that it's not going to get us into some sort of legal hot water depending on what the issue is. But then whether it's speaking down at the State House or the media or whatever else, that we have the ability to do that and exercise our freedom of speech, but that we're making sure that we're very clear that, you know, this is who I am and I'm speaking on my own behalf, not for the city or the council. So those are important caveats, I think, to make sure that we have the ability to have a voice and we're not having our rights squashed, but we're also making sure that it's our voice being portrayed, not the council or the city.
Oh, sorry.
And I think too, Mayor Pro Tem, to that point, you're absolutely right, is we have we have that right to speak. I just asked too that's back to that, one of our number one thing is no surprises. That's very helpful. I know Councilor Baker does a good job. If he's writing in their article, he sends it out and he sends the link. So it's just helpful from that standpoint. So we don't get questions that we get blindsided by. So just appreciative of that.
And then all emails are to be CC'd council and staff.
But then I just asked that if it's council related, like if we're asking a question to staff that has personnel or personal matters, that it does not need to be CC'd to all of council.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order tonight?
So if I might.
Yeah.
So Protocol 6 talks about communications. Is it council's desire that staff provide an update and proposed language on Protocol number 6?
Yeah, just throw in that caveat because that happens every now and again.
And that doesn't encumber anyone from speaking.
Yeah.
So what staff can do, if it's council's desire, is we can bring forward some edits for your consideration. We can include them in an upcoming agenda, potentially a study session agenda, so that you can have a conversation as to whether the edits are agreeable, can make changes. And then if there is consensus at the conclusion of that discussion, it's been published and we can make it known that the council protocols have been updated. Typically, we don't update the protocols as in a formal resolution. Those are more for the rules that council's got the rules and regulations, which are also included here. So when you're ready for updated rules and regulations, those would be considered by resolution. But for now, I think we can bring forward, if the manager is agreeable, some proposed edits to these protocols and potentially for a study session agenda.
Appreciate it. And it is 7. We've got to get inside. You're good.
Haas. Welcome.
Can you hear me? There we go. Okay. So my name's Adam. I recently finished the Civic Academy last week, and sorry, I just had some comments on that. And of course, I lost my spot.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anyway, so I'd just like to thank city staff, Jody. The program was incredible. I think if everyone had a chance to do it, most people would walk away much more connected, grateful, and belonging with the city. So in particular, thanks to Kit, Abby, and Cody for making that program really great. In particular, though, one of the nights of the Civic Academy we spent at the municipal court, and I just wanted to take a few moments to speak on that. I know that at the graduation, you asked what our favorite moment was, and I kind of mentioned it, but I wanted to kind of speak on the public record to have and to the entire city council. So I was really blown away by such kind of like a mundane moment of the Civic Academy. You know, it's at the municipal court where 90% of people go because they go a little too fast on lull or something. And I was, like I said, blown away by the empathy and the dedication of all of the city staff there at the municipal court. In particular, some of the programs that take a lot more effort to put on. For example, the connecting with the homelessness navigator for all of those who need it, and also for navigating the RASP program. And the RASP program, for those who don't know, or at least in my limited experience from the evening, is a program that helps connect those on probation who can't afford some of the court-mandated services. It helps fund those court-mandated services so that way they don't violate their probation and they don't get, suffer the consequences of probation violation, like more jail time or more time in court. It's by far the cheapest option for most people for the city to engage in. And it has seen a 10% success rate, an increase of 10% in the success rate of probation. And I think that that's something really marked and appropriate. And so I would push, I don't know how budgets work, but I figured while it was fresh in my mind that I would put it out there that, if if the municipal court comes before the city at any point, I would know that there's myself and plenty of other citizens of Westminster who would appreciate the continued work that the court does, especially if we happen to find ourselves on the other side in any unfortunate situation. Seeing that I have a few moments left, I'd like to bring up another topic. And this one's a little bit more ad lib. But I've been to a few events and I see city council at many of those events. And I know that the mayor often speaks, like so-and-so can't make it because of their job, or so-and-so can't make it because of this other commitment. And it had me wondering, just about the function of city council itself. And I think that you all work countless hours tirelessly. And I really appreciate the work that you put into it. And I know that I don't know the finances of it, but I know that a meager stipend often is not enough to really fund the countless hours that you all do. And also, anyway, there's a lot of pieces to it. And I think it would, my biggest goal in this moment would be to name a hope for, I guess, potentially I don't know what the document that runs the city, not a constitution, but some sort of amendment that addresses city council wages, because I do think that it's an important role that every person on the dais plays. But if we're only allowing you just, a few breadcrumbs a day, or a few breadcrumbs a month, you obviously have to seek employment elsewhere so you can have funding for your families elsewhere. And that often takes away from your ability to respond to the needs of the city. And so maybe this is me just publicly naming it. Maybe this is me requesting help. But I'd love to look into what kind of citizen movements need to go into place to be able to see some adequate funding for each member of the city council. So that way we can give every person the option to potentially devote themselves full time to this position and to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our only speaker that we had signed up. Thank you. If anyone in the audience didn't get signed up but wants to speak, come on down. Not anyone that takes us to report of city officials, interim city manager Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments to offer this evening, but I would ask for Eric Otzelberger to come up to the podium tonight. Eric is our Operations and Community Preservation Manager and will provide a brief update on our progress with respect to 7731 Knox Court.
For your efforts, both in amending the supplemental or amending the appropriation for the carryover and your approval last Monday of a sole source contract award to D&K Works. We're positioned to start work this week. Our colleagues at CDPHE granted us an approved permit on Friday. I was in contact today with our contractor. They're ready to start mobilizing tomorrow and will commence work on Wednesday. With our friends in the Street Operations Division, secured some no parking signs and cones and have cordoned off a part of the street. If anyone owns a Toyota Corolla or a Ford Mustang on that street, I did place notices. We're going to need them to move the vehicles, I think, but just for the staging with the full containment approach. But we are prepared for takeoff this week, and that's the good news. And I'll just quote a colleague at CDPHE that's been doing this work for 15 years. And this individual said he has never seen a city council take this type of action on an item like this. So for what it's worth, a little kudos from our friends at the state.
Well, and I think I speak for this entire city council. You have put your heart and soul. I know you were there beyond working hours, making sure things were okay when things were ugly back in the early day of all of this mess. And you haven't let go of it. You and your team have worked tirelessly. You have empathy and caring for that community, and you know what they've been through. So thank you for everything you've done to get us to this point, because it's easy to pass a motion, but you've done the legwork. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And I just want to thank the residents for their patience. I mean, this has been a horrible, tragic, multi-layered situation that on its surface, seems somewhat simple, but getting into the layers of this and, mission number one here is cleaning up the property, which will make, the best progress we can along on that. And there still will be more to come down the road, of course, on ownership and things of that nature. But of course, mission one is do the full abatement.
Thank you. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Nope, that's okay. I just was going to kind of pile on a little bit because when we were, this obviously we as a whole council followed this throughout, and there was obviously a lot of legal matters where we were trying to wade through and make sure that we were doing the right things and not making the issue more complicated than it needed to be. And as soon as you gave us direction, which I appreciate, that I feel like you did that at the quickest possible moment that we could take some sort of action, that you did so. But I have to say, even with that, our best expectations you have exceeded by definitely more than weeks, because if there was a conversation that would we see something by the end of August, and we all were like, yeah, no way. I think Councilor Baker actually was one who thought that we would. And so you have exceeded expectation, and we very much appreciate it. And I know the residents appreciate it. Obviously, they would have liked to see something sooner, as we all would have. But I wanted to at least take the moment and say thank you to you and staff, because this definitely is happening a lot faster than I expected.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And it takes a village. Mr. Andrews and his staff, Mr. Frankel and his team, Chris Lindsay and the policy and budget team, and our colleagues at the state. It's not easy necessarily getting one of these permits across the finish line. And there was a lot of back and forth last week, but just it's good to see many folks pulling in the same direction. So I think we'll be able to provide some relief here and then on to the next chapter.
That brings us to council comments. Councilor Baker.
Thank you. There are a couple observations I would like to make. The first one has to do with a decision that the council is leaning toward about through lanes on Federal Boulevard. We spoke of it at our August 15th meeting, and I'm very much of an advocate that we do not reduce traffic through lanes on Federal Boulevard without tremendously powerful reasons. And I don't think we have those yet. And of course, we spend $1 million to reduce the capacity of Federal Boulevard, which is insane. So I certainly urge my colleagues to listen to the public. I don't know if I'll have a letter to the editor published or not, but we'll find out. And we shouldn't be making the streets in original Westminster more congested than they already are. Next, I'd like to turn to another issue which we had last week. It was held in confidence, but our new water plan needs to be transparent. It needs to be discussed in public. We need to have alternatives and ideas printed and published so we can explore them and study them. And each element of those ideas have a cost by it. I don't think there was, with the exception of one item in our executive meeting, that merited privilege, that merited confidentiality. Most of the items in our meeting, I think, should be discussed in a public, especially when we have that as one of our principles, one of our goals. Transparency. Transparency to me means that people see us making the sausage. I'm using a metaphor, of course, because we don't make sausage. But the metaphor is that, yeah, when you see the sausage being made, you may want to not eat the sausage because you'll find stuff that they dumped on the floor. You'll find ingredients that you didn't know were there. But that's the way we need to make our new water treatment plan. We need to have all the details and precise details, and they need to be public and they need to be costed. What we discussed, I could only, using another metaphor, liken to Barry Manilow songs. And we heard several Barry Manilow songs. And I want to hear other songs. Let's have a John Philip Sousa, or a Beatles, or a Rolling Stone, or a Gregorian chant, or some of that Chinese music. To me, all the things we discussed were all the same. There was no diversity, there was no imagination, there was no thought, and there were items that I thought we had directed staff not to do that were done. So rather than contacting you individually where we could go into the details and stuff like that, I decided that it was better to make this public and part of the process and aware. But there were some wonderful things I took from that. There's no urgency. I remember back on November 29th, and we had a very public meeting about the water process. And at that time, I thought there was tremendous urgency. I didn't know if our plants were failing. Okay. I was also concerned about the interest rate rising, but hey, we've missed that boat. 2% rise in the interest rate will cost us $3 million a year. That's 50 cents for every 1,000 gallons of water we sell. And we've missed that. We're just going to have to pay that now. And if interest rates go up another 2%, that's another 50 cents. Okay. But there also might, because we only heard Barry Manilow songs, there might be another song that's significantly less. I mean, in our public meeting that we held in the spring, we heard about the Boulder plant that was done for what seems to be a ridiculously low amount of money. And yet that song wasn't sang in the meeting that we had. We didn't hear anything about that song. We don't know whether that, maybe we just misheard it. I can't believe that though. I think that what happened in Boulder was real and that was the price they did. And my question is, can't we replicate that? Can't we do that? Is that beyond us? But more than anything else, it needs to be public. The public needs to see us looking at the alternatives and the choices. And the public can participate. The public can say, what are you spending those prices for to do that? I remember on the Knox Courthouse, after we took the bold step to come up with the money to do that, and I really applaud this council's unity in doing that. It wasn't just a majority, it was unanimous. And after we did that, I got this guy writing me emails saying, we're paying too much for the asbestos abatement. So I passed them along to our staff. Okay. We could have the same thing happen with the water project. There might be members of the society, there might be potential contractors who say, well, I could do that for a whole lot less than what you're paying. I mean, that's the whole point of it being public, is that everybody can take a look if they're interested in saying, wow, that's great. Even on the Knox Court project, we don't have the original contractor, do we? Because we had someone else come up and said, I can do better than that. So my request to my colleagues is that when we do the new water treatment plant, that we publish everything, that we have the detailed prices of each element and each segment of it, and we can study it. We can study it as a group, and we also need diversity in the plans and not just clones of each other. I mean, we even discussed why one of the treatment processes wasn't used, wasn't even considered. And from a previous meeting, I thought that was going to be an alternative and vanished. So that's my request. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to talk about last Friday. We, the mayor and I both joined our C-Fire Citizen Fire Academy alumni group, as well as members of our fire department, to do a fundraiser for cancer prevention. It was a great evening, sold out. I'm not sure when it was sold out, and I'm glad that the people who I invited Friday didn't show up because they wouldn't have been able to go. But I guess Wednesday or so it sold out. But the folks that put that on put a lot of time and effort into that in order to raise funds, in order to prevent cancer for our men and women in the fire department. So I want to again thank them for the work that they did on that, and for what our firefighters do. It was a great event. And lastly, thank you to Snooze, who donates, I don't remember what the dollar amount is, but the $10,000 for their staff time and the food, which the food is fabulous. So I hope you also take time to patron that business, because they are putting dollars back into the community and our fire department. I quickly want to address Councilor Baker's comments. Certainly, I'll start by saying our music choice is different. I prefer some Metallica, Nirvana, or maybe even Johnny Cash to anything that you just said. But I find myself kind of at ends, because when we go into executive session, I'm not going to discuss anything that was discussed there. I am looking to staff to say this is supposed to be held in confidence. When the time is right, of course, everybody on this council wants the correct, appropriate timing and details to be public. But it's very hard when you bring it up in this type of setting to not make it look as though the rest of us are doing something nefarious. And I do not believe that to be the case. So I'm disappointed that you approached it in this manner. However, I share your want for this to be as public as possible and as transparent as possible with as many options as possible. So I would say to staff, however, we can make sure that we are timing that appropriately, which I expect you already were doing, but I want to be clear that I want all those things in the proper time. Just like the Knox Court, there was a proper time and place when details needed to be put public, when action needed to be taken. And I think that this whole council is trying to make sure that we navigate through it appropriately.
Counselor Izadi? Oh, sorry, I didn't see your microphone. It's off in its own. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Councilor Zadi. I also wanted to respond to the public process thing. I have been wanting us to have a very public process that was a little more structured from the beginning and just from the start of when we were even setting water rates. So I certainly would like to just second, third, support having a public process as we go through this portion of our water provision. And I would say I would appreciate understanding what the process might look like from staff. I actually think that we should go out with alternatives, that we go out in the alternatives phase so that we can hear from the community and kind of choose a preferred alternative once we've heard from the community. And so that's what I'm hoping we can do. And that's about it. And I will second Metallica.
Counselor Izadi?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to start with the meetings I had. So I had several meetings with residents again this last weekend. And just, I think it's important that I continue to say this on this dais and whenever I can, because it's important for the city to understand that not everyone is living well. These residents complained about their rents and landlords raising their rents to unbelievable prices, pricing them out. Some are becoming homeless. And then we ask ourselves, well, why do we have so many unhoused? Well, these are the root causes. We need to address the actual roots. So it was another heartbreaking weekend for me, but just wanted to bring that up again because we need to keep this top of mind and we need to figure out solutions and see what we can do. That's point one. Point two, one of third or fourth Councilor Baker's comments, I think he's correct. We need more public processes. It's a matter of just letting the public know what we're doing. There are some, and he's correct. There are some things that we've talked about that didn't have to be an executive session. So I'm also all for making sure that the public is aware of what we're doing and that we actually take the input. There's a difference between a public process where you all get involved and you see what we're doing and you say things. But if we don't listen to what you say or take that actually, to take your input seriously, then there's no point. So I would want a public process that is actually inclusive of your input, that helps guide our decisions versus just letting you know what we're doing. So Baker, you're correct. Thank you.
Counselor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for being here, Mr. Barajas. Civic Academy graduation was a great evening, and I know that Councilor Baker, myself, Councilor Emmons, and the mayor enjoyed that process. Thank you for your comments as well, but I don't think anyone at this dais does this for money. It's about passion, and I appreciate that. And even if there was a charter amendment to make this a full-time job, our founding fathers believed that once you're done doing what you should do, you should go back and tend to your crops. So I think it's important that those of us still have a connection to the community, but thank you for that thought. Greatly appreciated that.
Counselor Emmons?
Thank you. Really great graduation with our Civic Academy on Wednesday. It was great to sit and talk and have dinner with our residents and those that have went through the academy. It was the second year for that, I'm going to say process, but academy. And I've continually heard good things from residents that have gone through it. So kudos to staff and kudos to those that participated and graduated. Again, I hear so many good things, and now it's up to our residents who have graduated, who are now graduates, to share that with other residents, to have them come participate with us in next year's Civic Academy, as well as also participation in our police and fire academies. Those are biannual, and this one, Civic Academy, is annual, but I think it's important to also spread the word of mouth. It comes more importantly from residents and their experiences. So thank you to staff and those that participated in that. And then also I had the North Metro Arts Alliance on Thursday, last Thursday, and they're having their member event on September 10th. They also have a public event with Highland Hills at the Clear Creek Valley Park called Park Fest on September 9th, and that's being held from 5 to 8. And then to my colleagues, just as a comment for what's been said, lots of agreements and disagreements here, but I'd also like us to, if we're talking about transparency and holding ourselves accountable, then we better be following our protocols, because in our protocols, it says that we need to make sure that we're communicating with all of us on our intentions and who we speak to, specifically with media. So if we're holding ourselves and staff accountable, then we need to be holding our staff accountable, we need to be holding ourselves accountable.
The Sea Fire event was beyond great, and if you've never been to one, watch for it next year. It's always in August. It is just a great event, and the snooze at 144th just did a fantastic job. The civics group is Cody's over here. Thank you for all that you've done to make that come alive, and everybody loves it. The energy in the room that night of graduation was just fantastic. So I know you are sort of the linchpin in that whole thing, and so thank you so very much for doing that. And just remind everybody, Wednesday night, if you're going to Police Academy, you'll be there. I will start there, and then I will see you over at the rec center for the volunteer night. And then Thursday night is the start of Fire Academy. And so a busy week, they always are, but fun, great things happening. So thanks to everybody for all that they've done in the last week. That takes us to item 8A through F, consent agenda. Councilor Seymour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt the consent agenda items 8A through 8F.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt consent agenda items 8A through 8F. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
And Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 37. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Councilor Bill number 37 on first reading to amend section 1-23-1 administrative penalty citations for code violations of the Westminster Municipal Code.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 37. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
And Councilor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Councilor's Bill number 38. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to pass Councilor Bill number 38 on first reading to amend section 8-1-16C1 of the Westminster Municipal Code concerning summary abatement authority for graffiti violation.
Councilor Emmons?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Councilor's Bill number 38. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Emmons.
Yes.
Councilor Azadi.
Yes.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councilor Nermella.
Yes.
Councilor Seymour.
Yes.
Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Counselor's Bill number 39. Counselor Emmons,
I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 39 on first reading regarding vacating the 20-foot alley right-of-way between Lot 1 and Lot 2 on Block C-3 of the second replat of downtown Westminster.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Counselor's Bill number 39. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Nermella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
and Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
That brings us to Counselor's Bill number 40. Counselor Emmons.
I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 40 on first reading, providing for a supplemental appropriation of funds to the 2022 adopted budget of the General Golf Course Enterprise, Legacy Ridge Golf Course, Parks, Open Space and Trails, and General Capital Improvement Funds.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass Counselor's Bill number 40. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor McNally,
Yes.
Counselor Nermella,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
and Counselor Azadi.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
Brings us to resolution number 29, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 29, authorizing the assignment of $6,416,147 of the city's private activity bond allocation for 2022 to the Adams County Public Housing Authority, doing business as Maker Housing Partners for qualified purposes set forth in the resolution, and authorize the mayor to execute the necessary documents.
Counselor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass resolution number 29. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Baker.
Yes, I'd like to ask what is the value of this assignment that we're doing? Do we have a dollar figure for it? I know they were the only ones who asked to take this, but what is the dollar value of this?
Coordinator for Economic Development. Thank you for the question, Councilor Baker. The value is 6.4 million in private activity bonds, and it's about half of what they need in order to apply for LIHTC, which is our low-income housing tax credit available through the state. They get, because of where the property is located, it's part of uplands. And if they move forward in our process and get approved by you, they will apply for LIHTC and they will get a 130% valuation for their investment because it's in a qualified census tract. So they get a little bit more equity for their dollar.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand is these are like government guarantees for these bonds, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and don't they sell these guarantees and get more than the face value for them?
Correct. They get a 30% boost on these.
Okay, so could you describe to me how that would work in the marketplace?
Boy, I have not done a bond sale, so I'm probably not the right person, but I can get some more information and bring it back to you.
Okay, and then on a different issue, these were the only people requesting a chance to use this authority we've been given, correct?
Correct. In the past, we've had no multiple requests. We've had years where we went looking for someone to assign our bonding. And this year we had 4 developers come and speak with us about this. So I put out a public application. Maker was the only one that actually filed an application.
Okay, and otherwise it would just really revert back to the state.
It does. On September 14th, if we have not assigned these bonds, they go back to DOLA, the Department of Housing under the state, and they can put it into the general bank for any developer to apply for there. This allows us to control a little bit more the destiny of this investment that's assigned to you to use for betterment in our community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Gurmilla,
Yes.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demat,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
and Mayor McNally.
Yes,
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
that brings us to resolution 30. I didn't see who went first. Counselor Emmons?
I move to adopt resolution number 30, authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement regarding the participation and representation in Region 10 of the Colorado opioid settlement distribution structure governing the Jefferson County region while still maintaining its ability to receive and use its opioid settlement fund and to fully participate in Region 8 governing the Adams County region.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 30. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Emmons?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank our legal team for their hard work on this. This has been in the making as far as the settlement. I believe longer than I've been on council. I know that we've had many discussions regarding this. So just wanted to thank the team for their continued work and process in getting this done. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I would echo what Counselor Emmons stated. I know this has been a long haul, but it certainly isn't the end of this issue. I don't know very many people who haven't been touched by somebody who's lost their life to opioids in the U.S. I'm certainly not in this state, and I am no different than that. So this is a small effort to try to hold, to continue to put pressure on that issue. But I appreciate all the work that's been put into this over the years and will continue to be put into this because I know it's not over with, and this is just another step in the process.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Seymour,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demat,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes,
and Counselor Gurmilla.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
that brings us to item 10G. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to authorize the city manager to execute the 5% closing contingency for 12.59 acres of Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association property located at the southwest corner of 114th and Huron Street for the open space in the amount of $25,227.
Counselor Seymour?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass item 10G. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Demat,
Yes.
Counselor Emmons,
Yes.
Counselor Azadi,
Yes.
Mayor McNally,
Yes,
Counselor Gurmilla,
Yes.
and Counselor Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
that brings us to item,
Move to authorize the mayor to execute an employment agreement with Mark Freitag for his services as city manager.
Counselor Seymour.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 10H. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Gurmilla?
Yes, so I will be voting no on this, and I just wanted to share my my current concerns. I hope that they are allayed over time and that my vote is a yes the next time this contract comes up. But my concerns are over a couple of things. One is the lack of suitability and a lack of specific knowledge and preparedness that I was hoping that our next city manager would have and be able to apply from the get-go to our community. So just to expand on that a little bit, in terms of suitability, one of the things that I value greatly is the ability to look at all sides of a situation and understand that, running a city, managing a lot of people, it does require flexibility. And the one thing that I think Mr. Freitag prided himself in was just having a more of a binary yes or no kind of approach to his leadership. And, I hope that changes over time and that doesn't prove to be the case with how he evaluates individual things that come up as either for understanding that, there are calculated risks that you do need to take as a leader and as a manager of a city. And there are things that, need to change over time, that we need to be out of the box on certain things. And so I'm hoping that's something that he can or will do, and maybe change his approach and the way he views the world. And this is just how he's explained himself in these short interviews that we've had. So that's one thing. The other thing that I am hoping he will expand upon is his knowledge and preparedness, particularly with respect to economic development, community building, and community outreach. Some of the things that I would highlight are just, while he has been able to lead a very large military establishment of about 360,000 people, I think that operationally it was well set up. And not to say that we're not well set up in the city, but cities change and cities have to respond to political pressures that the military areas may not necessarily have to. And with respect to economic development, his responses to some of our questions were kind of limited. So I'm hoping that as he is exposed to a more complex region and city, that he will again work to expand his knowledge of economic development approaches, and just the language that he uses to describe certain areas in our community. So that's one piece. The second is really about community building and community outreach. There seemed to be, for me, a lack of acknowledgement that community outreach is difficult to do and accomplish and do successfully, and that it's not just about messaging, it's about having a dialogue. And so I'm hoping that our staff can help provide some additional context and help guide him in the way that he views outreach. And overall, I just want to say, I hope that, he maintains a growth mindset over the next year. I certainly will look at that myself. And again, it's very difficult to judge someone on a couple of interviews, but these were the takeaways that I had and the concerns that I had. And again, I'll emphasize that I hope that these things are not something that I have to bring up next time that his contract comes across. And I look forward to seeing what he does for the city. Councilor Usadi?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wrote down a few terms, so I'll just start with reading them. Respected, loved, admired, trusted, fair, and balanced. These are the words that I would describe Jody. And Jody, I just wanted to let you know that the community loves you. I think you did a fantastic job. You were my choice. And I wanted you to at least hear it in a public forum on the record, because you've been fantastic. You know your stuff. And I can tell you the entire community knows that too. And just wanted to start with that. Mark, if you're listening, you have some big shoes to fill, and I think you can do it. And I hope, and I'm very hopeful that you will do it. There's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to know about the community and your staff. What gives me comfort is you have the best staff. This city staff is the best in the state. And that gives me a lot of comfort knowing that Jody and the rest of the staff will be here to help you, to get you onboarded. But I just hope that you approach this role with an open mind. Please be inclusive. please make sure that you love your staff and that you treat them with respect. And I think you can do this, and I'm hoping that you will do this, but I will be voting no simply because of what I started off with. I think Jody just wanted to give you that public recognition and public love that you were a fantastic interim. Thank you.
Counselor Baker?
Thank you. I will be voting enthusiastically yes. I think Mike Freitag was the best choice we could have made. I think he is absolutely prepared for this challenge, and it is a challenge, no doubt about that. 8 years as a city manager of a city of 60,000 people, successfully accomplished year after year. Completely prepared. It's interesting how we all hear the same information, but we have different takeaways from it. I was quite impressed when a colonel can tell a general, no, thank you, sir, and it sticks. He knows exactly what he's doing. He can be a team player, and he knows when it's good to stand alone. He had the huge economic challenge of a huge GM plant in his city being closed, and he successfully negotiated this. And he's not been here before. He has not been trained to the group that is here in the city. He has a fresh eyes and fresh mind and bring, I hope, a fresh point of view. I think it'll be a wonderful choice for the city. Which isn't to say that there weren't other excellent choices. There were. We had the pleasure of having excellent choices. But Mr. Freitag was, to me, the best. So I'll be voting yes.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Counselor Emmons?
Under the gun. I will be a yes. We had really great candidates, including our interim, Jody Andrews, and all were very qualified. And it made the decision clear as mud for me because they were all very well qualified and had a lot of diversity in their background. And that's part of the reason why it took us so long to come to the public and say a public vote. But I pride myself in taking care of thoughtfulness and precision on every vote that I make on council, and this is no different. So I will be a yes for Mark tonight. Mark's experience in Janesville, coupled with his military background, is impressive, and I am looking forward to working with Mark in the coming weeks. I do want to take a minute, though, and thank you, Jody, not only for your service to the city, but for stepping into a very difficult role at a very difficult time. You've handled many transitions with grace and integrity, and your team had to pivot a lot, more than once. And I recognize that that's not easy to do for a city manager, interim city manager, or staff. And you've been a steady hand in what might seem like instability. And in all, I want to thank you for your commitment and service to not only your job and what you do, but to your employees and to, most importantly, our residents.
Tim?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would reiterate we had great qualified candidates, which made this probably the most difficult choice that I've made in this seat, in this role. So I am in support of Mark. I think Mark has a very amazing resume, and as did the other candidates, but he was my choice. But I do the only reason I really want to take a moment to thank Jody, because you did step into a role that you didn't have to step into at probably one of the most difficult times in the city's history. And I think that you deserve a lot of credit for that. And you're still here making sure that the ship stays steady as we transition to the next part of this history's, what will be its history. So I appreciate the fact that you've done that, and you've done it with all the things that you've heard here. We continue to value you. I don't think that we would have been able to make it through the last 8 months without somebody with your mentality being able to step into that role who cares about the city in the way that you do. So I just want you to know that we do value you and appreciate all the work that you've put into this.
I'll just say, I know my head, and I said this at different times during the process, I had to be ready to work with whoever this council chose. I've talked to Mark Freitag. He is ready to come. He will be here October 24th after this vote. And the hardest part is knowing November 1st, 2021, you were sworn in, and less than 2 weeks later, you had a whole new council. And so that was your first surprise. Then we had all of the Uplands things in December that had been put off, no fault of yours. And we got to do all of that. Then we started January with our strategic plan. Everybody got on board. We have that going. And I think that is one thing that you and staff have helped us get ahead of the game with that, because had we not had that prior to going into looking for a city manager, I just think that would have been a huge missing piece. You and I have talked in the war room or wherever we meet, and I can't imagine how difficult tonight is. And you know that I said that to you personally. But just know, I know you're committed to being here for the next 2 months till October 24th. You know that I've talked to Mark and told him he is very fortunate to have a great right-hand person coming in to his new job to be able to help and guide also. So thank you for that. And from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for everything that you are doing and are going to do. So roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Demott.
Yes.
Councillor Emmons.
Yes.
Councillor Azadi.
No.
Mayor McNally.
Yes.
Councillor Nermella.
No.
Councillor Seymour.
Yes.
And Councillor Baker.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 5-2 vote.
I will at 7:57 conclude this meeting and roll into the Westminster Economic Development Authority special meeting for Monday, August 22nd, 2022. Incorporating the roll call from the regular meeting. And do I have a motion for consideration of minutes of the preceding meetings of the WIDA minutes, June 13th, 2022? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the minutes of the June 13th, 2022 meeting as presented.
Councillor Emmons.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meetings. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to authorize the special legal counsel contract for downtown Westminster project.
Mayor, if I could,
Oh,
before the motion's made,
Oh.
I wanted to be sure the WIDA board had received the message that I transmitted. There has been a typographical error in the proposed contract. And if council or WIDA is amenable to incorporating a correction into the proposed motion, that would be the request. Thank you.
Is council okay with accepting the amendment?
I have it. I can just read it as the. I move to authorize the interim executive director to enter into an agreement with Murray Dow Berry and Renaud LLP for work related to the downtown Westminster project and general urban renewal and eminent domain matters in the amount not to exceed $80,000. Correcting paragraph 4 to provide an hourly rate of $350.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve or authorize a special legal counsel contract for downtown Westminster project. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Baker? Oh, wait.
If it would help, I could explain the error that occurred. The agenda memo is correct. The proposed hourly rate of $350 is the request. And Mr. Murray's been working at the current the $300 hourly rate since 2017. And I believe he's below market rate on that. And having done it now for over 5 years at that rate, it would be the recommendation to modify the hourly rate to a more market appropriate $350 per hour. I apologize for the typo contract that's attached.
Counselor Baker?
Thank you. But this includes far more than eminent domain issues, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Councilor Baker does. Mr. Murray's work is primarily for the downtown Westminster project, and he's an expert in urban renewal law. He also does practice in eminent domain. We don't have any eminent domain matters with him this time.
So these are all just matters with it. We got your hourly rate, but it neglected to list the topics of what those hourly expenditures were.
So the hours that Mr. Murray spent in the last 12 months have been spent on the downtown Westminster project, and he's been instrumental in negotiating transactions on behalf of the city. So he's worked with, for example, the Marzick firm on the redevelopment of the US Bank building, as well as with the Thrash Group on the blocks where Thrash is building condominiums and townhomes in addition to the hotel that's on the site. Mr. Murray's also been instrumental in working on the Schnitzer office development project. He's also guided the negotiations that have affected all the Sherman projects, including the as yet to open Market Hall on the Ascent project. So he's also been instrumental in identifying concepts for council for the next phase of development. So we, as the Westminster team, recommend a continued contract.
And so we anticipate a little less work this coming year?
Correct. Yeah, the work is quite transactional and is driven by the number of deals that are coming forward. But a lot of the work that Mr. Murray has done has sort of led us to this point where we are prepared for several projects now to move forward. And the estimate of $80,000 is the anticipated need for fees in the next 12 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please. Board Member Baker.
Yes.
Mayor, Vice Chair Demott.
Yes.
Board Member Evans.
Yes.
Board Member Azadi.
Yes.
Chairperson McNally.
Yes.
Board Member Nurmela.
Yes.
And Board Member Seymour.
Yes.
The motion passes on a 7-0 vote.
It is 8:02 and we will adjourn this meeting. And is there cause for executive session?
Yes, Mayor, there is a proposed executive session for City Council. It is to discuss a personnel matter, the discussion of the annual review process specific to the city attorney and the presiding judge. This would be convened pursuant to Westminster Municipal Code, Section 111.3C1 and Colorado Revised Statute 246402-4F1.
There's reason for executive session, and I will poll the council to see if you're willing to go into executive session, and we'll hold things confidential. Councilor Azadi? Councilor Nurmela?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Nancy McNally, yes. Councilor Emmons?
Yes.
Councilor Seymour?
Yes.
Councilor Baker?
Yes, and I will.
We will take a 10-minute break, and then we will come back together